Hi there, I'm Alan Smith and welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about something that I think probably gets a mixed response from folks, and that's this word called diet. Well, we all are familiar with the idea of diet, but we're going to focus on the flexitarian diet. New word, right? Okay, so this comes from Dawn Jackson Blanter. She's a nutritionist who came up with this idea of being vegetarian, but with just a little bit of animal product in what you consume. Now, I want to be clear from the outset that the idea of the flexitarian diet isn't really rule-driven. It's not about what you eat or don't eat, or the calories or the macronutrients. It's really more about a lifestyle and the way you think about food. Now, one of my favorite foods are the mushrooms. And just look at these, aren't they fantastic? Many of you may know mushrooms can be a great alternative for consuming meat. They're naturally high in protein and fiber, low in sodium, calories, fat, and cholesterol free. And here with me today is a neighboring farmer friend of mine, Jess Wilkins of Y Mountain Mushroom Farm. Jess, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, it's fantastic. These are just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm just curious about this one because I'm just struck by the very thick stalk of this one. Is this the king mushroom?
That's the king oyster.
The king oyster.
The king oyster is generally a pretty large mushroom, as you can see.
Very.
And the stem is actually choice on this mushroom. Like many, you would only eat the cap and you would throw the stem away.
Yeah, yeah.
The stem is actually great. The cap is delicious on it as well.
Right, right. Now, I'm struck by these gorgeous clusters. This looks like a chestnut mushroom to me. It looks like little brown rolls that have just come out of the oven. Are there any of these that you really like raw?
I particularly don't like mushrooms raw.
This is good. I do. Yeah, this is good.
That would be one, like king oyster, you would definitely not want to eat raw. It's way too firm. I think the texture would be off on it completely.
So cooking it makes it much more palatable.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. And moving on to clusters, these blue oysters are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, that is pure art.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful food.
And that is really a blue-gray color to them.
Yeah, when they're really young too, they're even more blue. They kind of fade as they mature.
I see.
And so if you let them over mature, they actually will fade out to gray.
Oh, I see. That is wonderful. Now this one is a very odd fellow for me, and I don't know this one, and I'm going to beg your knowledge on this. This looks like a snowball. It's really quite amazing. What do you call this mushroom?
That is the lion's mane mushroom.
Of course, I've read about the lion's mane.
And so I think that name actually comes when it matures. These teeth on it will actually grow really long. They get multiple inches long.
That's what I'm thinking. They're much more hairier looking. Yeah, hence the mane of the lion.
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, it is beautiful. I think mushrooms for a lot of folks are maybe a little scary, It's like, ooh, because we hear about, they can be poisonous in the forest and that kind of thing. And are there particular varieties that you see that people reach for or recoil from because of just their appearance? I mean, like the lion's mane. It looks like a big cauliflower, and it looks like it could be a pet.
Absolutely. More so, I think, from the culinary standpoint, if they don't know how to prepare the mushroom, they're not as comfortable
that makes a lot of sense. Sure.
The chestnut is one of the bigger, the hot sellers, and it's identifiable as a mushroom. Yeah. And the preparation techniques are fairly simple.
Sure. I would love for you to walk us through maybe some of the cooking techniques.
I'd love to show you a couple ways.
Okay. Well, let's shift some things around here and get started.
Okay. Sounds good.
Still to come on the show, we head down to Louisiana for a delicious vegetarian recipe. But after the break, Jess and I do a little taste testing, so stay tuned. Now let's put some of these mushrooms to work here in the kitchen. All right, so Jess, which one do you want to start with, and help us with some techniques with some of these things?
Sure, let's start with the king oyster, my favorite mushroom.
Right, yep.
So there's two ways I like to prepare this, which is to scallop the stem. You can also shred it into pulled pork.
Ah, so you can make it look like a scallop.
Absolutely.
So here we go. All right, there's a scallop, looks like about very nice scallop. Any thickness, you can go any way you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, look at that. Look at those gorgeous scallops.
And from this point, you can take these and steep them in hot water, and that helps that texture, but it's not a must. You don't have to.
Okay, let's take another king for just a moment.
Okay.
And I want that shredded pork. I want to see what you do with that. So here we are. We've got the stem.
Yeah, and I'll just take that and scar it.
A fork, and you're just scarring it on the, yeah, look at that. Okay, you're just tearing it into shreds. Yeah, that's so easily done. Look at that. And it does look like shredded pork.
Yeah. And then from this point, I like to take it and kind of bake it for like 10 minutes, or just depends, you know, how much mushroom you have, but just to pull a little bit of that moisture out. Okay. And then give it a quick saute.
Okay, so here we've got shredded pork and we've got scallops.
Absolutely.
From one mushroom.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, now, I want to get something started over here. Why don't we do this shredded pork, as it were, over here. And I'm gonna use olive oil now, because we're doing Flexitarian, so I could use butter, right? So what I tend to do, and I'm curious about what you think about mushrooms, I love the flavor of them, and I don't like a lot of seasoning, personally. So like with this, do you have any, when you do a shredded pork, do you have herbs or flavors that you like to add to the mushroom, or do you like for the flavor of the king just to stand out on itself?
The flavor of the king oyster kind of tastes more like meat almost right out of the gate already. It doesn't have that typical mushroom flavor to it. But with the pulled pork, you could also just slap barbecue sauce on it and make a pulled pork sandwich.
There you go, yeah. Now the lion's mane, that really has me intrigued, what you would do with the lion's mane. So let's talk about that while I just continue.
Sure. So lion's mane, I like to take and slice it almost into like half-inch discs.
Okay, like you might a cauliflower.
Yeah, and you don't even have to do that. You can also just pull it almost like you would chicken, and it'll get a look like pulled chicken. And if you dry saute it, it kind of gives it more of a flaked crab meat texture to it. And then you already have that clean flavor, so you can use it as a crab substitute.
Really? Okay, that's a nice idea as well. Beautiful, beautiful, and that's got great flavor. All right, let's jump over here if we could to the our chestnut mushrooms.
Sure.
And just a couple of tips on that would be really helpful. Those are so beautiful.
Yeah, and the chestnut mushroom is somewhat of a mild flavored mushroom. It's not super strong, but it has an amazing texture to it. And what I really like is it doesn't get rubbery on you no matter how you prepare it. You can't cook it raw.
Oh, good.
And the stem is really good on these as well. So all you'd want to do with these is just cut that base off of there. Where you have all these good little mushrooms. And I like to keep them whole. It's one of, I think, the better qualities of them.
Whatever. Oh, they look good on the plate.
Yeah, they present really well.
Yeah. They hold up well.
Absolutely. Okay. You know, it doesn't get lost in your dish. It goes great in an omelet.
Oh, look, yeah, that sounds like a wonderful idea. Well, Jess, this is fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time from your busy day growing these mushrooms to come up here to Moss Mountain Farm.
I really appreciate the invite,
keep up
Alan.
the good work with Y Mountain Mushroom Farms. Yeah, this is awesome.
Cool.
After the break, we visit a restaurant in Louisiana whose goal is to not only make great tasting food, but to nourish our bodies as well.
My name is Dana Milford. This is For His Temple Family Foods. We're an organic restaurant and market in West Monroe, Louisiana. A lot of my recipes are family recipes from my grandmother, from my mom, my sister, just, you know, wherever I can find it. My daughter has found, she'll email me stuff, Mom, we can clean this up. And, you know, we'll get something and we'll change it and make it, you know, our clean version. I went on a 30-day detox and nothing real extreme and just felt phenomenal. How can taking gluten and dairy out of my diet and eating clean organic vegetables make me feel so different? And that started my food nerd lifestyle. People, will come in here, oh my gosh, your food is amazing. I'm like, it's the ingredients. That is the difference. It's like, I'm not that amazing. You start out with clean, good, wholesome, real, fresh ingredients, and it's unbelievable, the difference, just absolutely unbelievable. Because I thought, oh, you do health food. I heard that a lot in the beginning. I'm like, look, it's not lettuce and tofu. You won't find tofu in here, It's real food. I cook with lard. I love bacon grease. I do the real stuff that our grandmothers did. We bring the fresh produce in from Inglewood, and it's available for people to buy. We have meals ready to go. We have frozen meals. We have a market of clean stuff. I mean, it's like trying to do everything we can to say, here, take care of his temple.
Upon our return, we follow Dana into the kitchen where she takes some locally sourced eggplants and tomatoes and makes a dish that anyone can make at home.
Okay, so I'm in my kitchen at For His Temple Family Foods, and I am going to show y'all how we make our eggplant tomato bake. So with this recipe, one of the first things you want to do is preheat your oven to 350. We've got that turned on and getting warm behind us. And while it's getting ready, we're going to prep our eggplant. You want to peel it, cut the stem off the end, and cut it in little 1/4-inch rounds. And then we're going to add some salt to it. And when we do that, the salt is going to draw the water out of the eggplant. The next step, we're going to move over to the stove in just a second, is to brown some onion. And a great tip, something I learned from my grandmother, is to make trilogy. Trilogy is obviously 3 things. It's onion, celery, and garlic. And it's just something my grandmother always used in her cooking, and so I've done it as well. So we're going to use a 1/4 cup, and this just happens to be a 1/4 cup scoop. So this is some lard that we made. We're going to put a couple tablespoons in the skillet. We'll set this off because we'll use a little more. And we're going to let that get hot and add our trilogy and just turn the temperature down and let it kind of cook and caramelize till you have a nice brown colored onion. So let that simmer for just a couple minutes. I'm going to move this, let it keep going just a little, because we're getting close. And I'm going to go ahead and start putting some of my eggplant in here. And all we're doing with the eggplant is just really kind of lightly searing it. Just get it a little brown on each side. We'll flip it over. I'm going to go ahead and scoop my onions out. Let them sit over here to the side while I finish my eggplant. And here's my favorite, a little more lard. Can't ever have too much. Get this last batch finished and we'll step back over and layer up the casserole. All right, so now the last thing we'll do, I've sliced a few tomatoes up, but I'm gonna go ahead and slice this last one for our layers. As you see, this is not your picture perfect tomato, but this is a real tomato, straight from a farm. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make 3 layers. So we'll do a little layer of our eggplant, and then, and then a layer, and let me cut these in half. I'm also a big proponent of cutting the vegetables in a way that they're easy to serve. If they're too big and you try to serve them and they pull and the casserole comes apart, it just makes the presentation not great in the serving. So I usually try and cut mine in a little bit smaller pieces. Okay, so we'll layer up our tomato. Put that in there. And then you want to take about 1/3 of your onions and just kind of sprinkle them around. Now another layer of eggplant, do another layer of tomatoes, another 1/3 of the onion, and then our last layer of eggplant, another layer of tomato. All right, and then our last little bit of onion. So from here, we're gonna pour a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar just all over And then we're gonna take, this is some gluten-free breadcrumbs, salt, pepper, and then of course we're gonna add some lard. Okay, so this is gonna be our crumb topping. And you're just gonna sprinkle this all over evenly. And it just makes a nice crunchy little topping. And that is the eggplant tomato bake. Now this will go in a 350-degree oven for 25 minutes until it's a little brown on top and kind of bubbling on the side, and then it's ready to devour.
After this break, we head over to Inglewood Farm in Alexandria, where Dana finds a lot of her fresh and organic ingredients. So stay tuned. Hey, I want you to see one of my favorite perennial vegetables. This is purple asparagus. In fact, this is called purple passion. Just look at that gorgeous color. What's interesting is these vegetables that have a dark pigment like this are considered to have a higher level of anthocyanins, which studies have proven aid in brain health. They also reduce inflammation, and they help us ward off cancer and heart disease. So why just plant one purple vegetable? Do a whole garden full of them. I was recently at Inglewood Farms with Mike Glass, who shows us a few great purple varieties that you should consider growing in your garden this season.
Hey guys, Mike Glass here, Inglewood Farm in Alexandria, Louisiana. I know you wanted to see some purple stuff today, so I'm going to show you a few things that we're growing. Eggplant, summer crop, of course. You have our traditional bells that we use mostly, but we also carry a Ichabod that is a purple growing eggplant that is delightful. Then we'll move to okra. Everybody that I know is used to seeing this, green okra, that's what you get. Well, we grow multiple varieties of everything. We have some purple okra that is fantastic. The difference between the two is only the color. People are stuck on green, try purple. You cook them together, close your eyes, you won't be able to tell the difference. Now, this is an interesting one that we have. This is a purple hikuri turnip. We grow these because we like to do things out of the norm. Your normal hikuri turnips are white, and that's it. To my right, another summer crop. We've got a variety of bells. Most that you haven't seen, because your typical green, again, yellows. Well, we have sourced Italian bell peppers that are actually purple. Now for your home growers, as long as you're below the Mason-Dixon line, okra is the easiest thing to grow. You can direct seed it, you can start it in a greenhouse, plant them about 2 feet apart, about a ½ inch depth, and let them go. They need minimal nutrients. They will grow in excess of 7 or 8 feet tall. If they get too tall for you to harvest them, you can trim them at waist level and they'll bloom again. So this plant will go from early May through late October, your first freeze, wherever you're at.
Want to learn more? Visit PAllenSmith.com for delicious recipes, garden tips, blog posts, and more. As we've learned in today's show, by becoming more of a flexitarian, substituting more vegetables for meat, it can actually improve your health. But we mustn't forget it can also make a positive impact on our planet by using fewer fossil fuels as well as land and precious water. I hope you've enjoyed today's show, and I hope it's provoked you to think a little bit about how your food is grown and what you're putting into your body. Until next time, I'm Alan Smith.